Hi, everybody, and welcome to Cope with Hope. Today, I'm interviewing Kamal Mukhi. In 2001, he started his own cybersecurity company, Networking Intelligence, with one person. Very soon, it grew to 600 plus people, and today he has offices globally. After the Delhi riots, he decided to change his track a little bit and get into the service space. And he flew to Delhi and he's been a Seva Bhakt since then, with helping people there as well as in Mumbai. So let me get him on to tell you a little bit about himself and what he's been doing in the space of service. Thank you so much, Kamal, for agreeing to do this interview with me. I feel very honored and privileged to be interviewing people like you, who are really, I feel, angels of today, helping everybody put their lives back in track as much as you can. Thank you.
First of all, thank you for having me today, Nandini. It's a pleasure to be talking with you. And I look forward to our chat today.
Yes. So, will you tell me how you got into this? What is that thing that pushed you to say, okay, fine, I'm flying to Delhi now, and this is what I'm doing with my life?
So, actually, this is a very long answer, and I'm going to try and make it as short as possible. So, I think the shortest version of the answer is midlife crisis. The slightly version is that I turned 40 in December last year, and obviously I was looking for more from life, and I was looking at what next could I be doing. Of course, I continue to run the company, and that is my full-time job even today. But when the riots happened, obviously I was very disturbed, as were many other people.
Yes.
And I told my wife that, when I remember when the Godhra riots happened, when the Gujarat riots happened, I remember feeling, though I was, I think, in my 20s, but, I still remember that feeling of helplessness. I remember, thinking, oh my God, somebody should do something, somebody should do something. And I said, I don't want to live with that feeling now. When this has happened again, and I don't want to sit back. I want to be a part of some initiative. And I said, I don't have very lofty goals. If I can go there and I can help one family, one child, get a better life, I think that's enough for me. I don't want to, change the world. So that's all that I'm going there for. And so, in spite of her concerns, I booked the flight and I landed up there, and I contacted some friends and said, whatever you guys are doing, just tell me how I can be of help.
Wow. That's amazing, and that's a lovely story. And then tell me what exactly you did there.
Well, when I landed up there, I connected with a group of people. It was actually a collective, and they were calling themselves Helping Hands, though there are many other organizations called Helping Hands, but we didn't know that then, and we said this looks like a cool name to have, and we used that name. It was actually a group of doctors from Jamia and Hamdard Hospital actually, and they were helping riot victims with medical help. And they put me in charge of, or we took charge of basically the relief operation. So the Delhi government was working closely with a number of other NGOs. So everybody was trying to do it in a coordinated fashion. And we sort of took the lead on providing relief material to the riot victims, which was, dry food grains. Cylinders had been used to actually cause much of the violence, so we had to supply cylinders for people who now actually wanted it to cook,
Yes.
and gas, and water supply had been damaged. So there was a whole, every day was something new. And there were many people who had just run away from their homes out of fear and had holed up in friends' houses or in other mosques or things like that. So we had to get them cooked food, breakfast, milk for children, So it was, every day was like a new host of requirements coming in. And so that's what basically we started doing in Delhi.
In Delhi. And then in Bombay, you started during the COVID lockdown, or you started before that?
During the COVID lockdown. So basically what happened was that I was in Delhi actually only for 3 days.
Okay.
And after 3 days, I was helping out as much as I could over phone and email over here
Okay.
using, sorts of technology tools. And then the COVID situation took over. So anyway, fieldwork was getting limited. And what was happening was that as far as the Northeast victims were concerned, they were now starting to move towards rehabilitation. That initial 2 or 3 weeks of relief work was tapering off, and they were now moving to resettle their lives and things like that. So I told the Delhi team that I would like to be less involved now, because, and also we should now probably focus on adopting one village or one locality and helping them end to end with. And we had no idea about how bad this COVID situation would get.
Yes.
Suddenly the lockdown got announced. So the relief requirements, sorry, my kids are in the background.
No, sorry.
The relief requirements just shot up through the roof. We were doing like maybe 100, 200 ration kits a day. And suddenly our requirement shot up to 1,000, 2,000, 3,000. So then we took all of that data and we handed it over to the Delhi government, and we said, this is beyond our means. We will still focus on Northeast Delhi. We cannot, and I mean, the requirements were coming from all over Delhi. And then I basically found somebody, a gentleman called Ruben Mascarenhas. He had started an initiative called khanachahiye.com. And he was very active. He tweeted. So I tweeted him and I said, I've done some work in Delhi and maybe that experience can help. I would like to join up with you. So then I got involved in the Mumbai efforts and actually withdrew from Delhi almost completely.
And you work with Ruben Mascarenhas now?
Yes, absolutely. So again, this is also a collective. So there is Shishir Joshi of Project Mumbai. There is Neeti Goyal. There is Ruben Mascarenhas, Pathak Muni. So these are all fantastic people who have come together, and they're doing amazing work in terms of cooked food. They put me in charge of the fruit grains part, and then Neeti pulled me into the Sonu Sood initiative of the Ghar Bhejo campaign. So basically, wherever I could be of help, I basically just stepped in and said, help, what can I do in this?
So is this still going on? Because I don't think it's all ended. The lockdown has eased.
Nandini, you have a very good point, and I was listening to some of your other interviews. Other people have also made the same point.
Yeah.
In our privileged households, we think, like I had a very funny conversation with my mom. She was telling me, you're still running this migrant support.
Of course.
And she said, but ye log to wapas aa rahe hain. I said, ye log ek category nahi hai.
हम लोग.
हाँ, ये ग्रुप नहीं है, ये हमारे जैसे लोग हैं, and we are just these lesser, less lucky people. We have been very fortunate. These are less fortunate people. And now what we are seeing, unfortunately, Nandini, it's people who ran mithai shops, who drove taxis, who worked in that 20, 25,000, 18,000 rupee a month salary, and those salaries. Jobs have not come back. They're settled here with their families. Like when we run these trains now, we see the majority are families, and it's all kids and old parents. And many of these men are actually taking their families back home and saying, we can't pay the rents here, we can't feed them. And the unfortunate part is, it is this strata of society which has never asked for help.
Never.
They're not used to dole. And it kills them that their children were going in English medium schools. Now it kills them that for the school fees they can't even provide for a decent meal to their families. I was speaking to a person who runs a number of mithai shops in Vasai, and he has been a fantastic help to us in running the coordination operation, especially with the trains at the Vasai station. And he was helping us build a list of more people who want to go to UP. And yesterday he confessed, he said, sir, मैं आपको बताना चाह रहा हूँ कि ये वाली UP ट्रेन में अब मैं भी जाऊँगा और मेरी फैमिली भी जाएगी. हमारे लिए भी यहाँ पे गुजारा. मतलब he had been fighting hard for migrants, And today he's reached a situation where he's also given up. I
So
cannot
may
sustain
I
it.
ask a question here? So you help them get on the trains. Do you pay for their tickets? What is the sort of help that you give them?
You know, Nandini, the Indian Railways is such a interesting
Yeah.
a set of rules. You actually, even if you want to pay, you cannot pay. We offered to pay. We said, you know, we have the funds. We can buy all of the 1800 tickets of a train to UP or of a train to Bihar.
Yeah.
But the railway, not just now in the Shramik special situation, but in general, the railways does not have a facility where a private party can book a whole train.
Yeah, I know that.
Operation is basically a coordination logistics operation. We have an online site, a Google form basically, which is a bilingual form. We have a toll-free number. We collect people's requests through these channels. We have more than 1 lakh requests through these channels for people wanting to go from one state to the other. Then we analyze all of that data. We call up all of those people. We have a team of 20, 25 volunteers. We put together a final passenger list. Then we go through the whole process of requesting the Maharashtra state government to request, let's say, the UP government jointly. Then they request railways, and then the train gets organized. So it's a 3-party coordination.
And tell me, what is the quarantine once they get there? What happens to them once they get there?
So every state has its own rules. Some states basically just check. So we do a health check before boarding over here, and then the states do a health check when they deboard people there as well. And then only I think the symptomatic cases go into quarantine, as far as I know. Of course, we have flown people also. We've run, I think, 3 flights so far. So people who fly in are definitely sent to the institutional quarantine. But the rest, I think, are put into home quarantine. So from the trains, whoever goes, they're put into home quarantine. Yeah.
Okay, and they treated like human beings and not sprayed and all that. I mean, just heartbreakingly horrifying images. I used to just, it was awful. I used to call so many people and say, but how can we help? What is it that we can do? And, I'd be told this, the government is handling things. And, when I heard of all of you and the wonderful work that you've been doing, it's been such a like a soothing balm to my heart. I can't tell you, because I really feel we are all one. One of us are hurting, then all of us are hurting.
True.
We're not separate from that pain that so many went through.
Yeah, and it was avoidable. That's the worst part. It could have been so much better planned and managed, and it need not have reached a situation where it's literally like we're doing them a favor now. We're not, right? I mean,
No, we're not.
the Constitution gives us the freedom to move and the freedom to settle where we want to.
Exactly.
And these are people who have the freedom to go back. Even today, I would say many of the people that we are helping through these trains or buses, they can afford to pay for that train ticket, but the trains are not running at the frequency. Like they're calling us and we are saying, "Why we'll pay you for your ticket?" They're saying, "Sir, up waitlist to dekho. It's like till July, and now the regular trains are stopped again from July to August. So it's only going to worsen the situation." You know, people who have the money, like it's $800 a ticket, they can afford to pay it. Many of these people, but they can't afford to wait till August to get a train.
To pay for the ticket, but
the
they
rent
can't afford the rent. They can't afford rent. They can't afford living in Bombay. And who's going to take care of them? That is, one of the main reasons I wanted to interview you today. Is there some sort of system that's in place for people like that, who are stuck here in Bombay, not able to pay their rent, not earning any money, not because they don't want to, but because they can't. They've lost their jobs. And many of them have been turned into daily wage earners, and they're not getting that opportunity to go out there and work. Is there any system that's been put in place for people like that?
So there are different levels of support. Nothing is perfect and nothing captures everybody's situation. You know, many people do fall through the safety net. So for example, many of the people that we are now dealing with have ration cards. So they can get ration at the public distribution systems because they've been settled in Mumbai for many years. That's one. Second, we are again working with the BMC, and other NGOs are also doing a fantastic job in getting ration to the slums and the chawls and the bastis, not only in Mumbai, but even we are helping the Raigad people, who are affected by the cyclone Nisar. So the one thing is that you can try and approach the local collector's office or the local administration tehsildar's office, and seek help from there. And then the Maharashtra government has also set up a website where people wanting to travel out of the state can register themselves. I'll share a link with you. You can put it up on the Facebook and the other channels where you post this interview. So there are multiple such channels being set up, but I would not be surprised if many hundreds or thousands of families are still not able to get one or more of these benefits.
God, yeah. Well, thank you so much, you and your team, for doing this amazing work. And before we end today, can you tell me briefly what for you is hope? What does the word hope mean for you?
So so I just want to first answer that a little positively. I think the hope for me is seeing such wonderful, brilliant people. I know many people ask me what's the highlight of all of this work that you've been doing, and I think for me, the highlight is really meeting such amazing people, which probably if I had not started doing this, I would not even have met 1/10 of these amazing people in my whole life, and social sector definitely brings people whose heart is in the right place, and they put skills and talents they have, whether they run restaurants. For example, one of the people that you should also probably interview is Neeti Goyal. She's run community kitchens for people. She's helped with ration. She's this Ghar Bejo is her idea along with Sonu Sood. So she's been doing like hundreds of initiatives pretty much on her own. So it's all of these amazing, wonderful people, and that gives me hope that somewhere humanity might be able to save itself. But to be honest, I used to be an optimist. I see in your tagline also you say you are an optimist. I also used to be an optimist. I think it's something that comes naturally to most people who are entrepreneurs to always think tomorrow will be a better day. But honestly, I don't think I am an optimist anymore. I'm become quite a pessimist. I don't think our political system truly cares about people. I don't think the administration, other than some really shining examples, as a rule, we are really caring about. And what is for me the most disheartening in all of this is this middle class privileged mindset that we see everywhere, where it's always like क्यों कर रहा है कोई और कर लेगा, and I have to tell people that और मैं ही हूँ क्योंकि और कोई नहीं है, तो वो हमारे जैसे कर रहे हैं और कोई नहीं है, या गवर्नमेंट कर लेगी. तो आई हैव टू टेल देम कि अगर गवर्नमेंट तो कर ही रही है, बट अगर गवर्नमेंट ने सब कुछ करना होता तो एनजीओ का कॉन्सेप्ट ही नहीं होता. नॉन गवर्नमेंटल ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस
अब तक कर लेते ना,
नीड टू बी देयर.
एग्जैक्टली.
So I am hopeful because of the people that I meet and I work with. But I'm not so hopeful about our systems and processes. I don't think we have those robust systems that will end up taking care of everybody's food, health, and educational needs. I think we need, as a country, we definitely have a very, very long way to go.
Thank you so much, Kanwal. It was really lovely speaking to you. And people like you make me know why I'm an illogical optimist. Thank you very much.
It's been my pleasure. Thank you, Nandini.